This is Generation Now's video game segment, and today we have some info on a free-to-play MMO, an upcoming game that's yet to be released, some updates, and some heart-wrenching news or some awesome news, depending on your perspective. Now, recently, MMOs have really caught my attention because I found a bunch of free ones. And last episode, I went over this, and there's a few of them. Funny thing is, this one I found it the day after we filmed last episode, so I left it out, but it is something worth noting. Alright, it's Lord of the Rings Online. It is an MMO, and it does work like other MMOs except for it's Lord of the Rings themed, and it has a lot of extra pizzazz that I'm going to go over in just a second. Now, Lord of the Rings Online, or LOTRO for short, trust me, it saves a lot of time. It's a free-to-play MMO that there's a $15 subscription fee if you want for a premium account, or there's in-game currency you can buy. A lot of games are doing this now, a lot of free-to-play games, because the people with mandatory subscriptions still haven't gotten it through their head. The game takes place over the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it works like a book series. After after the next chapter, the story progresses. Now, if you don't know about the Lord of the Rings trilogy, there's a Ring of Power that was forged by Sauron. Actually, I think it was Sauron, and pretty much it was a Ring of Power. It gave him like super strength and he was really powerful because of it, right? And then he gave out all the other minor rings to kings around the Middle Earth. And then they got corrupted and turned into the Ringwraiths, which are also called the Nazgul. And pretty much the whole story has first Bilbo Baggins got a hold of the Ring of Power, and that was Frodo's uncle. Then Frodo got a hold of the ring, and then the Nazgul came after the ring because Sauron found it. And pretty much he went and they accumulated a fellowship, and then they went to throw it into Mount Doom. That's the only way to destroy it. That is the most briefest description of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Yeah, very brief, actually. I could go on. So if you're a fan of the fantasy epic created by J.R.R. Tolkien, this game is a must. And now you get to pick 4 races. There's 4 races to pick from, and there's many classes. The races are human, elf, dwarf, and hobbit, and the classes range from a few different types of warrior classes, rogue classes, range classes, and there are no mages, because if you know about the Lord of the Rings lore, there's only 5 wizards around at the time of this event. Now, the real interesting thing about this is the PvP. It's called Monster Play, and it has you take the side of evil and you fight the hero characters. So you'll be monsters, and you'll gain infamy while you fight the opposing side. But what also is really cool is they have their own quests, deeds, and titles that they can acquire as well. I'll go over deeds and titles in a minute. But yeah, you fight, and when you're the heroes, you gain renown, and then when you're the monsters, you gain infamy for killing the good guys. Yeah, kind of a double standard. I mean, don't you think? Now, there's only one type of monster you can play as if you have a free account. Now, if you pay for a premium account, you can unlock the rest of them, and there are a few of them, and they're all equally ugly, in my opinion. Now, deeds are quests that let the character gain certain traits, so they all kind of have their own personality traits to keep everybody, different from one another, because that's what it's about, diversity in these kind of games. And it also gives them bonuses, stat bonuses, and stuff like that. You gain them from, killing so many creatures in an area or using a special move so many times, stuff like that. Also, the titles serve no real purpose except for, RPG elements, really. It's just a title. I'm Devin from Wichita, that kind of thing, except it'd be Gondor, because that sounds way cooler. Now, other than the Tolkien fantasy universe, this game works like every other MMO, combat and structure-wise. So the UIs are the same, the combat system's pretty much the same. So all in all, I give it a 7 out of 10, mostly because I just absolutely love Lord of the Rings, and it's equivalent to my love of Star Wars at the moment, but Star Wars is kind of winning. So next, moving on. The next game is Prototype 2, and it will be released on July 24th, and the Prototype franchise was developed by Radical Entertainment. And, okay, the whole Prototype franchise is about an infection that spreads, and in the first game, it's in New York City, and it pretty much mutates and zombifies people. And in the first game, the protagonist, is a guy named Alex Mercer, and he gets infected, but instead of turning into some brain-dead doofus, he gets superpowers, and he can mutate and consume people's identities, which sounds really cool. I would use that to rob so many banks. I wouldn't be robbing because it would be me, right? Now, the main protagonist of Prototype 2 is a guy named James Heller. He's pretty much blaming his family's death on Alex Mercer. See, James, he was part of the military, I think, and he survived a suicide mission, and by survive, I mean he got infected with the same thing that transformed Alex. And just like Alex, he got away with not being a brain-dead doofus, and he got the same powers as Alex Mercer. And so he's going to take revenge on Alex because it seems like Alex in this second game is not trying to stop the virus like he was in the first game, but is spreading it. So he seems like a big jerk. To summarize it all up, the game has a new protagonist. Like I said, you can still consume people, shapeshift, and you'll go on a quest to destroy the Blacklight virus and get revenge. And the game is a free roam game, which is great. And you can pick side quests and progress through the main storyline at your own pace, because voluntarism is awesome. Now for updates, and I couldn't wait for this. Star Wars: The Old Republic has released information on their update 1.3 allies. The first thing to mention is that the system everybody wanted was a group finder, and they're going to add a group finder because it is ridiculous to try to find a group, especially now that BioWare is in quite the predicament. They lost 400,000 subscribers right before the release of 1.2, and they didn't really acquire their subscribers back after it, and so they're trying to jump onto 1.3 as quick as possible. Now, the legacy system that was introduced in 1.2 is going to be expanded on by unlocking all the coming soon things in the legacy page. So you'll have new perks you can get. So if you like to level up, if you want to level up, if you play PvP more, then you can make it so PvP gives you extra experience, or quests and yada yada. Also, there's things like that help you give extra morality for your decisions and dialogues and actions and stuff like that, because this game does have a morality system. I guess the last thing to mention is there's going to be adaptive gear, so if you are rewarded with social gear, you can mod them and utilize them for combat. Also, there'll be augmentation slots in weapons and armor, so you can mod them even more and get more customization, because there's nothing more annoying than working really hard for tier gear just to see every other doofus look exactly like you. Now for the heartbreaking news, there is going to be an Elder Scrolls MMO, and this has been verified. There are screenshots and videos. Now, you might turn to alcoholism after this, or you might just be in heaven now, but it is happening, and it looks pretty cool. Don't know how I feel about it, because some people are going to be upset that they strolled away from their single-player in-depth experience and are trying to become more mainstream, because Elder Scrolls did not start out mainstream. Now don't slit your wrists, and don't jump in that suicide booth, and stay classy, Wichita.